So my entire life, I was the anti-drug, sports addicted child. I didn't drink in college. I was so focused on trying to run the 200 on the track team while playing on the baseball team while taking 8, 9 classes a semester trying to advance in the world. I was very motivated. And so when I first experienced cannabis from a medicinal standpoint for my shoulders, I was in my late 30s and I was still a skeptic. I was a health advocate. I study longevity. I do a variety of yoga to work on my spirit, to allow my endorphins to calm down because I get so excited about ideas. But what I'm trying to get across is that I'm an advocate for the use of cannabis in certain situations. And so I was able to use it for pain relief in my shoulders. And it took down some of the anxiety I had with work and family and other things that were happening at that point, that I started talking to my father about it, and he had experienced it when he was a teen, and he talked about some of the benefits of it, but it was difficult to be able to find a high quality product, and he had paranoia, and he was a member of our family that was supporting us, so he couldn't ever take the edge off, right? So he had to be so focused about trying to create a living, becoming a writer, which is so difficult, and be the breadwinner of the family. While my mother and I and my sister, were basically always supporting him because he was able to write at home. And it was a great, memorable experience. But he did not use cannabis, throughout this time. And so when we were talking about it and I started experiencing it, we had some, funny moments of kind of these eye-opening experiences when you first start using cannabis, where you think of the world a little bit differently. It's more of an objective standpoint in the sense that you get out of your own inner focus. And that could be with CBD or THC. But anyway, my father moved to North Carolina, and it's more of a conservative state, so he didn't even want to think about it. So this is a man who hasn't experienced cannabis since his, mid 20s. So when he came down with brain cancer, over the dozens of times of the visits, I always recommended CBD for 3 reasons. One is that I'd seen studies related to oncology that looked very promising. Second is a lot of anxiety. I mean, this man didn't regularly see doctors, even though he was extremely fit. He rode his bike across America in 6 weeks. Think about that, in his 50s. It's crazy. He was a vegan, very passionate, brilliant man. And so he took great care of his health. And this brain cancer, the same one McCain has, took his life quickly. I mean, it was a year. And they were advocates. They were working out. They were doing the different diets. They had a real game plan. But I tried to get CBD as an early part of the program. I tried, and it got to the point where my father said to me multiple times, and it still breaks my heart. He said, "Be my son, not my doctor." And this is like your hero, right? And it's a person that always established thought and really gave me so many awakenings. And so I was pushing, CBDs to be such an early part of the process. And the doctor said, no. I mean, there's conservative doctors. And then he went to Duke, and, they were more open to it, but they didn't really advocate it. So my parents didn't move forward. And literally a couple months before he passed, he started being open to it. And he had one experience that was wonderful. He was able to finally sleep. And imagine going through cancer treatments twice a day and having insomnia. I mean, think about that. You can't even get an hour of rest. Imagine how cranky and how horrible that would be, having your blood drawn, the radiation. You can only imagine. So the first time he experienced CBD, he slept that night. And that was just a little topical rub. It was a microdose. And I tried to establish it more of a regular plan, not only for the pain relief and anxiety, but actually medicinally, because there's been thousands of studies. A lot of them aren't released due to all the different pharma corruption dollars. But anyway, the thing that really bothers me is that it was only a couple of weeks before he passed that he sent me an email saying, I've been approved. I would like to experience this. And he wasn't able to really type that much. So for him this is a writer that's written, dozens of books that are 500-600 pages. And for him not to be able to even write a sentence or so forth and to request the only thing in the communication those 2 days was CBD, 2 weeks before, I only wonder what could have been, right? And it breaks my heart. But one of the things that I learned from my father during this process is he was grateful that he learned the time clock of when his life would end, right? So every single day we take for granted and we go through the same routine. We wake up, we spend 8 hours at work, an hour in traffic. We don't spend any family time. We don't communicate about real issues. Everything is about gossip or social media or some nonsense. We don't really talk about what's really happening in the world. I mean, so many different horrible, horrible things. We're so fortunate to even be in such a wonderful land as America, and we take it for granted every day. And so when he knew that, hey, I probably only have 6 months or a year, 18 months, I mean, this was a disease where there was no recovering. It was just how long you extend your life. Is it days, weeks, months? And this is a man that was healthy. He just published another book. He was 72. Like we were talking about that he'd lived till his 90s, 95s. I mean, they grew their own vegetables in the ground and they ate them every day. I mean, this is how healthy-minded they were. And so he had such an objective, pragmatic stance on it, saying, I only have this amount of months. And we always thought it would be a lot longer. I mean, we thought we had an extra year or so forth. So at the end, it moved really quickly. But he was able to have these spiritual endings, like bookends of life, about perspectives he's had every time from a child to an adult. And when you know that you're able to kind of end things on your terms, he was able to really enjoy those days. And it was smiles, and it was love, and it was the deterioration of the body, but it was the growth of the soul. Because if you know that there's an end time frame, then you approach it differently. It's like when you're trying to, race or something, you're like, I only have 5 more seconds, and you give it that extra push. It's like that with your spirit, in the sense that if you know there's an ending to this journey that we all face, then you approach the final days differently. So anyway, this video is for anybody that has a family member that has cancer. I would do what you need to do to try to convince that person to experience cannabis for the first time. And I would try to do whatever you can to get past the healthcare bureaucracy and the pharma corruption that currently exists, because they deserve the benefits of CBD. It is something that is a shame. There's been so much hate and legislative lobbying against, because it will really change the way that person approaches their healthcare. It will allow them to have a longer lifespan, and it will give them a different perspective on life. This plant, its nourishment for the soul is it's something that can't really be experienced unless you've really had your soul attacked, and that could be from cancer or some type of internal struggle. So for everyone out there, have an experience, have a talk with somebody that's facing death, their own internal extinction, because if they do not at least pursue that path scientifically, look at the evidence, look at it from a third-party standpoint, from a person that's been there, and for a person that wished it was a little bit earlier. Hart Cunningham.